Hello and welcome to MySecurityTV and our Tech and Sec Weekly. My name's Chris Cubbage, I'm the editor with MySecurity Media, recording in Singapore at the Net Events with Bugcrowd, Casey Ellis, the Chief Strategy Officer, and Sarge Lahani, who is the TISO, Technical Information Security Officer. Gents, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Now, we've had a couple of briefings from you gents this morning as well, and we're going to be talking about hackers. And if anyone saw our last interview with Casey in Sydney, we're going to do a series of interviewing hackers. And Sarge, without going too much into your background, you're what we would class as a white hat hacker, and with vast years of experience as well. Casey, maybe your general profiles of your hacking community, would you be able to sort of define that? And before you even answer that, it's also related to the latest edition of, how would we be saying that? ITMO.
Inside the Mind of a Hacker.
Okay, Volume 7, Issue 1, Inside the Mind of a Hacker 2023. This will be available to the audience, but a range of different sort of profiles of hackers in here. One I jumped on very early. 93% of hackers are fluent in at least 2 languages, which I really liked. And you've got a range of here. But yeah, how do you find, this is obviously a good reflection of your hacking community?
Yeah, so that's a product of a survey that we do every year. I think you said it was the 7th one?
Yes,
that
Issue 7.
Right.
Yeah, Volume 7.
So when we originally started doing that, Bugcrowd's first job was really to prove to the world that hackers aren't always evil.
Not always, but
because hacking can be obviously used for evil, and that's kind of why we're all here as defenders, right? But just because you can hack, it doesn't mean you're inherently a bad person. And that was sort of our starting point. So we had to put a lot of effort into demystifying like who hackers are, like who are these people, how does this all work? And this report was actually how we did that. So it's in its 7th year, coming up on 8th, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Oh, look, it looks very interesting. As I said, it will be available. Sarge, the hacking lists, in terms of the top 50, the ones that are getting the best bounties, does change. The skill sets change. It's a challenge to keep up as a sort of a professional hacker, as a white hat hacker would be. Just what's your general take on sort of a publication like this as a snapshot in time of the hacking community?
I mean, it gives you a nice bit of history and trend, so you can keep up with how the actual community has evolved over the years and just kind of see how everything progresses, which I think is really cool. As we talked about previously, there's a very separate and distinct type of skill set for hacking, and it's constantly evolving, constantly changing. So this also gives you a chance to be able to see just what the current set is, and it might suit you better than what you actually think. So you can always come in and give it a shot.
What general advice, in terms of the series that we're going to run as well, what general advice do you give to those that, and hacking's a very broad term as well, professional breaker might be another one, but yeah, how do you define hacking in terms of that mindset? What's a better term otherwise, that maybe not so much less sexy but a bit more technical?
A very creative mindset for finding bypasses to anything. So it's less so breaking into systems, but more so a collective mindset that people have, where it's trying to find different ways to get around a problem. It could be something very simple like just, I don't want to pay $30,000 to fix this problem. I just want to pay $30. How do I get around that to make it cheap? A very simple thing, but technically that's the exact same mindset that you need to be able to go and, it's what it's called in hacking terms is bypassing business logic flaws. And it's the exact same thing, right? It's how do you actually go and make something impactful? How do you use those skills and that mindset to be able to go and do things? It doesn't necessarily actually mean you're breaking into the system. It means you can go and utilize it creatively.
Well, you mentioned that when you, for the sort of your first hack, so to speak, was a game hack, that immediately took me back to go, I was always impressed by those guys that go, no, I didn't want to go through levels 1 to 10, I just wanted to go straight to 12 and 13, and so I hacked my way through, and that really is creating that efficiency, finding those vulnerabilities. I think the other thing that you pointed out was your methodology as a hacker, where you are keeping your tool sets and it's just bubbling away. You're almost cooking a dish as you go, and then eventually it comes together and you put those ingredients together. But you need to have different hats on, so to speak, different sets of tools bubbling away. Is that something that's becoming increasingly challenging, or flipping that around, increasingly viable now in a cloud environment where you can sort of create different tool sets, different code that you might be able to use on a rainy day?
So Casey, correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's both sides to the coin. You have a bit of both. It's, with things like AWS AMIs or something, you can basically go and create these images that you can spin up and reuse continuously, which is really nice. It's easy. It means you can basically get off the ground running a lot faster. But in that same way, now there's like 50 tools to do the exact same thing. So which one do you go and use? Do you use one that's found on GitHub or one that's found on GitLab? Very, very similar functionalities, but they do things just slightly differently. One will find, a certain security finding, the other one won't. One will bypass your firewall in one way and the other one won't, and whatnot. So the short answer is, I guess, it's up to personal preference. It's what you really actually want to get out of it. Sometimes it's also down to experimentation. A lot of these companies, like your Akamai's, your Fastly's, all these companies will actually find these tools and then adapt their firewall to go and block them. So it's also up to those tool developers to continuously keep contributing, growing, and improving. And that's how you know that you have a tool that you're going to be sticking with for the long run and updating and continuously using.
And Kaz, I imagine it's always been like that. Like Saj just said, is you experiment and go, oh, actually that worked. And then you might go, okay, well, I'll just keep that aside until I see someone who's either looking for a bounty, or that bounty pops up.
Yeah.
Bang, I've got something ready, or I can adapt what I've just done over there to a new bounty.
Because I agree. Like the answer to a lot of questions, I think in this space, it depends. So not want to hide behind that too much, but I do think it does really depend on the wiring of the individual hacker as well. Like, what are they best at? Thinking of two people right now. One is Reese, who is a phenomenally proficient hacker. Like, he's really good at starting. You drop him off on the outside of a thing and tell him what's in the middle of it, and he'll just find a way, like regardless of what he's got to kind of go through to get there.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do that by knowing all the steps himself. He does it by understanding the context and then understanding where he can either bring in other people or find out information to fill his own gaps to finish the job. So kind of to your point before, it's not about like he's mastered this set of tools and he's constantly staying up to date. He's constantly staying up to date with where technology's up to, and who knows what, kind of the art of the possible, right? Which is one way of doing it. And a variation of that's Shubs, who is very much like, he's an encyclopedia. Like, he's just someone who stays right on top of the state of the art, where technology's up to, and he's got certain domains that he applies that in and maintains that in. It's not because Shubs is better than Reese or vice versa. They're just different. And they have like different the way they're wired, approaches. They've got different skills, different wiring, different ways to get that done.
But even as you both talk, it's like, I'm also thinking from the CISO's perspective is they should have a similar mindset as well of how, what is my system, what's in the middle, what am I protecting, and then how is someone likely to come through that? And I think that's what the outcome of the series that we want to run, talking to different hackers about their methodologies, because I'm sure a CISO and a security team are going to learn from that to go, not only is that how we're likely to be attacked, but that's how we should be thinking in putting our controls in place. Is that
the thing that's important for the CISO to know is that same diversity exists in the bad guy land as well.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Like that's what makes them successful. So the idea of having effectively your white hat kind of version of that available to basically meet that kind of
in the
bad
middle
offensive force, like that just makes sense. You kind of leveling the playing.
And they may well be coming in with a higher motivation too, because they want to do it fast, quickly, cover their tracks. And they're going to be a much harder adversary as well. I suppose from the pen testing, that's another sort of announcement that's come out today, is now available in Singapore. The hacking community in Asia Pacific, Sarja in Melbourne, which is great. How do you find sort of the contrast between the Australian and Asia Pacific hacking community versus the rest of the world?
So there's actually a lot of collaboration within all parts of the world, honestly. So Australia, it's kind of nice because we're an island country, so we all just stick together, go to the same conferences, and you keep running to the same people. So it's lovely. In that same way, Asia Pacific has a very tight culture, whereas there's obviously a lot of other places, like regions do tend to kind of meet up with their own regions quite often. whereas obviously United States is a lot more dispersed, so it's harder to actually go and catch up in person.
It's like 50 different countries.
Yeah, it's stuck in one like
it's
jigsaw.
the same but different.
Yeah. But yeah, to that point, it's kind of one of those things where you've got the same building blocks for everyone, and it is a very collaborative environment. The very cool thing, though, is that it's collaborative worldwide. It's not just like Asia Pacific, and that's why you stick to your own. It's, I'll be collaborating with people all over the world quite often.
Well, that's maybe what the Bugcrowd community does, and the platform breaks down those sort of borders, so to speak, and brings everyone together.
That's the goal of it, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's the highlight of it, if anything. The hacking skill sets, we talked about off camera, the Linux platforms, cloud environments, Microsoft, and the like. From what we are expecting to see over this series, how are you going to approach it, Sarge, in terms of trying to bring some of these interviewees out into the open, and either their methodologies or skill sets or tech sets? What can we expect?
So my intent, as the amazing people that we bring on to this show, are going to be people from different diverse areas of hacking. They will all be security centric, but we've got a person that we're planning to bring on, Frenchie, who's an absolutely amazing supply chain security person, and Casey knows him quite well. Yeah. Then we've got we're planning to bring on Eric, who's a very very honest, very nice person, but he's
evil.
Pretty much
in a good way.
Like you want him on your side, not on the other. Trust me.
Be fine with that.
He's in my opinion the scaling king, as in you can't outscale the guy no matter what you do.
Nice.
So that's the type of thing where it's similar approaches to this. Well, similar approaches but completely different. Trying to actually go and embrace that community, and that's the perspective that we're trying to bring, right? It's how you can actually embrace that community to protect yourself.
Yeah. Look, the outcome that we mentioned for the CISOs, I think the other thing is to inspire the next generation of white hat hackers that they can learn. The viability of being a professional hacker is there now with the Bugcrowd sort of bounty market there available. How lucrative can it be, Casey?
I mean, you can build a living off it if you want to. It really it's another it depends answer, because I think everyone in terms of how they interact with crowdsourcing and multi-sourcing and the way that we do it, it's really dependent on what they want to get from it. So there's folks that just literally hammer on this stuff day in, day out, and they can earn north of $1 million a year.
Yeah.
There's folks that would earn a healthy salary in kind of where they live, and then there's folks that are just literally hobbyists. So they'll be like, oh, I need to paint my house. Okay, cool. I'll go find some bugs and get some money and buy some paint. Right? There's people that literally do that type of thing.
Even in a career transition or a job transition period.
Well, then there's that. Yeah,
this is where I was going to go
with the generational part, because I think the category that we pioneered and this idea of like, let's flatten the world out and democratize collaborative contribution to solving this problem, that's its own solution, and obviously that's grown a ton over the past 12 years. But the other thing that's happened is the security industry itself has grown a ton in the past 12 years. Like, people didn't care about security in general a decade ago in the way that they do today. So folks using stuff like Bugcrowd to actually basically take their career to the next step, whatever that next step might be. It might be a cold start, or they might be progressing and trying to get into something else, or whatever it is. I think the general opportunity that exists in cybersecurity is huge and only going to grow. And I do think it's really important that we engage the next generation as well. Like, I'd say a lot that the older I get, the better I was from a technical hacking standpoint. And I do think that as technology evolves, there's generations that are native to that technology that are just intuitively better at breaking into it. So I watch stuff that like 14 and 15-year-olds do at this point in time, and I kind of get it, but I'll never be native to it in the way that they are, in the same way that they don't understand the plumbing of the internet in the way that I do, as someone who kind of cut their teeth in the 80s and 90s, right? So I think this whole idea of like maintaining that fresh talent pool and fresh set of perspectives, I think that's really important, something that we want to dig into.
Well, it's again, we just had a discussion different episode, but on AI bias and the way technology is transforming. The other thing in terms of Bugcrowd and where you are as a company, you're not here in Singapore by mistake. You're now certified to be a pen testing provider, and you actively are recruiting as well as a company. So I think the audience that sees this has interest in this should be checking out Bugcrowd as a platform and the potentials there as a hacker. And if you're a CSO, you're going to be watching to see how some of these people have a look at your platforms and enterprise and attack you. But Sarge, thank you so much for joining us here. You're from Melbourne, so welcome to Singapore. Casey, safe travels home, but thanks and enjoy the week here in Singapore on your first visit. But otherwise, thanks for joining us on our Tech and Sec Weekly. And otherwise on our platform, get a copy of ITMOA. So there you go, Inside the Mind of a Hacker 2023. Thank you very much.